Looks like we're live. Let me just shift on to my screen. Great. Hi everyone, this is Aniket D'Souza and welcome to another Tuesday talk session. And in today's video, what I'm going to talk about is going to revolve around how do you track links on the internet. And this is a link that um, could be whether it's your website link or whether it could be your personal profile link. As long as it's a link, how do you track them? And it's also a link that is connected to your website, or the link that is directing people to another website. So there are two kinds of links that you can track. One is a link that will direct to your website, and there are different ways that you can track that. And the second one is a link that you cannot track from your website because it's not your website, right? So let's say you are wanting to track a link and the performance of a link for an Amazon page where you have uploaded your products, right? Now, what generally happens is that you cannot track that as to how many people came and landed on your product page, but you can definitely track how many people actually clicked on your link, right? So you might use that particular link of your product page on your Facebook channel, on your ads, on your QR codes, on your maybe different places, right? So that is one thing that you can track. So you can track all the links or the shortened or basically the links that you have spread across the internet, probably even via WhatsApp, and you've shared it with your friends. So you will be able to track that. So today I'm going to cover both of them. I'm going to cover those links that you can track, which can be tracked with a third-party application, and those links that you can track from your backend via your Google Analytics as well. So I'm going to show you both with examples. Plus, I'm going to take you through live case studies or live activity that is happening on these links as well. All right, so let's get into it. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please drop them in the comments. So I will be able to answer your questions live as well. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is comparatively easier, but it's more about when you think about them, you got to think about how do you track something that is not trackable, or you do not have a code on your website, something that is not your website, right? So if it is not your website and you still want to track links because you're the one who's spreading it or spreading those links or talking about it, then this is an application for you. So let's say Amazon, you have an Amazon page, you've already uploaded some products on Amazon, and you want to know whether how many people are actually clicking on an ad and coming to that website. You will be able to track the number of people who actually clicked on that link and came to Amazon. I'm not talking about the ads that are, let's say you've done it as an ad campaign on Facebook, but I'm also talking about you've shared that particular link on let's say a WhatsApp platform, or you've put in a QR code. It could be anything, right? So how do you track it? So let's get started with that. So let's say I am actually tracking. I'm going to shift it to my browser mode, and you should be able to see my browser here. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is there's this platform called Bitly. So I'm going to just open Bitly. That's bit.ly. And I currently have an account. So in case you do not have an account, if you want to track your links that you do not really own, as in the websites that you do not really own, you will be able to do that as well. So this is an example of a link. So I have actually created one seen over here. So this is an actual link of Economic Times, India Times, and it basically talks about the credit card moratorium that had recently happened and how interest will be calculated, things like that. So what I did was, and this was something that I had done a long time back. I mean, it's you can see the date as well. It was done on May 20th. Now, generally, what I do is at times I want to do tracking of the links or the content that I share on my social channels and see how many people actually click on them, right? So as you can see over here, I created a bit.ly link or a bit.ly link. What happens with a bit.ly link is it actually enables a tracking code onto the link, onto the original link. So let's say I go to a website. In this case, let's say I'm going to Economic Times, right? So I'm going to Economic Times, I'm clicking on an article, I have the link over here. Now let's say I am going to select this or copy this, and I want to track this link before I actually share it on my social media channel. So I want to know how many people would click on the link that I share on the social media channel. So what I do is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in my bit.ly. So once I've created my free account, then you can just click on create, and you can just paste the long URL here. And once it is done, you just say, just hit enter, or just you can just click the OK button or done button, and you get to see over here that you can put a title. This is basically your generated URL that's been created. Now you can copy this and you can put a title over here. So in this case, I have this is about smartphones. Sales are down, so that's what it says. That's what the article reads. So I will say smartphone sales are down. This is just for you to identify which particular link is this, and I can then basically customize it if I want to. So I can change this particular URL and write something else. So maybe I would say smartphone sales down, and that's a bit of customization. So I can see that the link is now edited. So you can see over here it's bit.ly smartphone sales down. So that's the link, and I just copy it and I click on save. And once I've done that, uh, this particular link is now tracking. So I can actually see that there are 0 clicks on my bit.ly smartphone sales are down. If I come over here and let's say I click on it, if I click on smartphone sales are down, and it opens up the same page, it opens up same Economic Times page that I had basically used for doing to do the URL shortening, right? So at this rate, I can actually shorten any number of links or anything on the web, as long as I'm actually using it and as long as I'm actually sharing it. So that's what I can do. So this way, in this same manner, I can just, let's say, go to Amazon, and I'll just pick up a random product, but let's say this is my product. So let's say I'm going to this particular product. Okay, this is a recent order that I had done for my cat, and let's let it just open. It's basically a cat tracker, so I kind of bought a cat tracker today. So I'm just going to go to the landing page of it, and you can see that this is actually the product, right? So what I would do is I would take this link on the top, I'll say copy, I'll go to my bit.ly and click on create and just paste it over here, and click on enter. So automatically it creates a shortened URL like this. Now you can see over here that this is slightly different from Economic Times. That's also because Amazon has actually claimed a shortened URL. So anytime, let's say, you use any URL shortener, it gets a branded URL shortener. So for something like this, you got to pay, you got to own this domain, things like that. But I'm not going to get into that kind of detail. But you can do it. It's more of a branding that you can do, especially when you have a site that has a lot of products in it, and that's something that you can do as part of branding. So for now, let's say it's this particular product, and I can say it's Amazon too. So I can copy it, I can put a title over here, and then whenever I kind of, let's say I can use this on my WhatsApp message that I will create, or it could be anything, right? So it could be my WhatsApp message, it could be let's say I could put it up on a QR code. I could do a lot of things. I could put it on my Facebook ad, or a post, or a post in a group, and you will also be able to track this particular link. Now let's say if you want to track different links for different places, you can always create multiple bit.ly URLs from this particular URL creator. So you can have a couple of them that you can actually make, all right, and then you can share and spread them. So you will be able to analyze which place the link came from, how many people really clicked on that particular link, whether it was the Facebook group that worked, or whether it's the Facebook page that worked, or whether it was a Facebook ad that worked, and you will be able to set up your tracking here. So so this is URL shorteners. These are called URL shorteners, and this is one of the ways that you can actually track. The second way is to your website. Let's say you own your own website. In this case, I'm going to just shut off this one. But in this case, for example, I will basically open up the Mindstorm analytics or the analytics backend. So you can see over here that there are currently 3 people. It's about 2.9K users. You can see the number of sessions, how many people have come to the website, all of that. This is basically the dashboard of Google Analytics. Let's say you want to track people who have actually visited your website from other places. Let's say you want to track Facebook ads. Let's say you want to track a campaign which it was leading to your website. Any link that is actually from your website that has been shared on other platforms, right? So it could be a Facebook ad, it could be an Instagram ad, it could be a link that is put up on YouTube. It can be, but everything has to be directed to your site, right? A site that you own. So, and a site that you're tracking via Google Analytics. So, it could be a WhatsApp message which has a link to your website. It could be a variety of things like that, right? So, anything that is linking to your website, that's what I'm talking about. It could be a QR code as well that you might hide a link inside that, and that link is actually taking you to or taking the consumer to your website. Now, what happens is, in most cases, Google is not able to identify where do these people come from. It's chaotic at times, and most of the time, you sometimes see a huge figure in the direct section or the direct and none section. Now, the direct and none section, which is over here, I'm just going to open up and I'll show it to you. So what you do is you go to acquisition and you head over to all traffic, and in all traffic you head over to source medium. So you'll be able to see how many people actually end up coming from direct and none. Direct and none simply means that they ended up typing the URL directly, or on the other hand, Google was not able to figure out which source they actually came from. It can be emails. Sometimes emails strip up the codes, or the email client strip up the codes as well. So it becomes extremely difficult for Google to actually track. So you can see over here there is something called as direct none. You can see that there are other sources of traffic as well. So what we generally do over here is we are able to kind of figure out if there is a problem, if there is direct none. So for example, like over here I can see right now bot traffic. This is for this whole duration. There has been a sudden rise in bot traffic. So you can see over here via Google Analytics, you can see when is it started, like whether it was there before and now it's been removed. So you can see that my team just interfered and kind of killed that bot traffic completely. So you can see that there is 0 right now, and that's when my team interfered, as when they kind of realized that there was a problem and there was an increase in numbers on the website, but they're not real people, right? So I will not get into the details of Google Analytics here, but this is just one way to figure it out. But there is this direct and none, and this is something that we need to kind of sort out. And the way to do this is actually to add UTM parameters. And there's something called as UTM, or the Urchin Tracking Module. It was a module that was bought off by Google. Um, I think approximately, I think around in the early, I mean, in 2000, 2010, that's the decade they actually bought UTM. I think it's precisely 2008 or so. But anyway, you can read that up. It doesn't really matter for us, because at the end of it, the job it does is that actually it's usable, right? So that's what matters. What matters is it's not about when it was created. It matters about how can you use it to your advantage. So we're going to talk about UTM tracking module. Let's get started with that side of it. So Google already has a link that they have created. I'm just going to shut off this Amazon page. So Google has already created a particular link or a URL builder. What you do is you just type Google URL builder and you will get this link right at the top, which is campaign URL builder. You just click on that, right? And you come to this particular page. Now on this particular page, it already tells you how you have to do it. So let's say I'm going to basically keep it for mindstorm.in. So this is the URL of the website. Now I can obviously put it HTTP or just put mindstorm.in. And then I can say, okay, campaign source, where is it from? Now the source over here, generally, what you do is you put up the website name where you will plan to advertise. So let's say if you're planning to run an ad on Times of India, then put TOI. If you're planning to if you're planning to run an ad on Facebook, put Facebook. If you're planning to run an ad on Instagram, put Instagram. If you're planning to run an ad on on Google, put Google. If you're planning to run an ad on Money Control, put Money Control. If you plan to run an ad on InShots, put InShots. Right. So that's what it is. Campaign source, it's an identifier, right? And ideally you put over here the source. So in this case, let's say I am going to run an ad on TOI, okay, and I want to just put TOI here. So one of the hygienes that I've always maintained is the naming convention. The naming convention becomes extremely difficult if you do not know what you're doing and if it cannot be passed on from one person to another. So I try to do it in the most simplest manner, as simple as possible, and that's how I try to keep it, so that it becomes easier for someone who is new to actually use that same format that I have created from the start, so that it becomes very easy for us to kind of monitor the whole thing over a period of time. So the ideal scenario here in this case would be make Excel sheet of naming conventions and then say that, okay, you've got to pick only from these selections. That's how you basically choose. If it's, let's say, for in this case, campaign source, TOI is for Times of India. If it is Times of India, then choose TOI as your source. So that's like a guide that you can actually create, kind of helps any person who comes later onwards. It's easy for them to actually use that, right? So campaign source, TOI, let's say Medium, now they're going to run an ad. So I would call it, and I'm going to pay cost per click, or probably, oh, sorry, they're not running an ad on cost per click. They will run it on CPM. So I will basically give them, or cost per thousand. So I will say, okay, if you're going to run it on cost per thousand, it's CPM. And M over here stands for Roman numeral in CPM. M stands for thousand. So I will basically put it as medium CPM, and or CPC, or you can see there are different ways. And then I would basically say promotion or the campaign name. In this case, I would say, let's say Diwali is coming up, right? So I will put here Diwali, just for me to understand that if I'm going to see it, if I'm going to see this huge traffic, possibly a huge traffic that comes onto my site from TOI in maybe like January or maybe in Feb, and I look back and I see where did the actual traffic from TOI comes from, I will know that it's from the Diwali campaign because I've kind of tagged it, right? So these are like tags that you put so that you can track them. So let's say for now I'm putting campaign name Diwali. I'm going to show you this live, so you will be able to see that as well in detail. The next thing is, let's say you have campaign term or campaign content. Now these are additional fields, okay? So it's not necessary that you have to add these fields, but these four fields over here on the top are mandatory. But these fields, which are campaign term and campaign content, could be added based on whether you want to track at an individual level or not. So let's look at that. So let's say I have three different ads. One is a video ad, or maybe like two different ads. One is a video ad, one is a static ad, and maybe one is a carousel. So three different ads on Facebook, or in this case it is TOI. If I were to do it Facebook, I'm just going to show you what I will change. I will change, if it was Facebook, I would put, instead of TOI, I will put Facebook. Instead of CPM, I will put CPC. Because it's cost per click that I'm going to basically run this ad on. Campaign name remains the same because it's Diwali. Now, if you observe closely, I'm putting everything in small letter. The reason I'm putting everything in small letter is that if you ever in future put two different variations of the letter, like maybe in some places you put Diwali as capital and Diwali as separate, these two things will split. Okay, so your data will immediately split. So if you're going to put Facebook F capital and Facebook in some places small, data is going to split. If you're going to put CPC in C capital one at one time, and the next time another person comes from your team and he puts CPC small, then data is going to split. So we don't want that split to happen, and that's the reason why these naming conventions can be kept small letter at all points of time, so it becomes easier for you to manage at an overview level, right? So let's say I'm running three different ads. In case of three different ads, I would simply put over here, one is a static, right? Done. So I'm going to take this link from the bottom over here, which you can see. Sorry, I think I lost you guys there for some time. Nevertheless, once we have the, let me just check if the stream is live. Okay, great. So if it so we were basically talking about Facebook, and I've actually converted this URL builder into now allowing me to add Facebook details, and I've actually put Facebook, and I put CPC, and I put Diwali. Now I'm ending up basically coming up with three different ads. So if I were to do three different ads, and I'm going to just open my notes over here, and I will show you. Uh, so possibly what I'll do is I'm just going to click it over here so that you can see my browser. And if you see over here, you can see it's mindstorm.in, UTM source is Facebook, UTM medium is CPC. How did I get this link? I just copied it from below over here. So you can see that all this data is actually populated into a new link, which is over here, and you can see this entire thing. And all I have to do is just save this particular link. So now this particular link, I'm going to use it with my static ad only. If I need to actually change from static ad to something else, let's say I'm doing a carousel ad, I will differentiate my data by adding carousel at the end, or I will differentiate my data by adding video at the end. So these are like three different ads that I'm running. Three different ads will have three different links, and the end link or the final link will be three different links, just so that I can measure the performance. So if I were to look at, okay, how's the data coming from Facebook, I would see the combination of them. But if I want to split the data and see whether it was the video ad that worked better, or the carousel ad that worked better, or the static ad that worked better, I will be able to do that only if I put a differentiating factor over here with and have three different links set up. So I'm going to show you this as an example. So let me just open up static. So I'm just opening up static over here. I'm just clicking and heading right there. Okay, so my site currently opens. You can see that. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to open my analytics parallelly, and I'm going to check my real-time data so that you can actually see if this shows up in the real-time feed. Okay, so I'm heading over to my overview. So you can see over here, currently it's showing a couple of people. This is this one person who's come right now. This is more likely me. Now the other thing that you need to see over here is that this is basically showing only social traffic, or it would show referral traffic, and it shows keyword, right? So currently, if you see, we've not really entered any keyword. This is basically the keyword. So for the sake of this video, I can actually put campaign term video as well. So let's look at that, and let's copy and paste this particular link again. But you can actually see this live elsewhere. So you could actually see this in other places, like you can actually go to audience and see it. So you can see over here right now, this page is just opened. So this page is just opened with the campaign or the UTM term keyword video, and you can see that there is video showing up, right? So this is real time right now. So all I did was I have Google Analytics on my website, and I can actually see in real time. I can see analytics over here, and you can see that it shows up. Now the other place, like I told you earlier, where you can actually see whether these all these details is just head over to, let's say, acquisition, all traffic, source medium. I'm just going to click on that, and I'm going to basically do a data pull for 29th September, just one day, and we're going to filter it so that we can see the data. Okay, so you can see over here that there is somebody who's come from Facebook CPC. Okay, and that's basically the link that we ended up creating, right? So so what you see over here is source and medium, the same source and medium that you had entered over here. If you see over here, it says campaign source Facebook, campaign medium CPC, and that's this. So you can see over here that it ended up basically coming like this in terms of Facebook CPC, and that's the idea of why we're tracking it. So let's actually get into this particular page. I'm going to get into that page, and let's add more details, right? So we've got campaign source medium. You can see that there is one user over here, and what is the campaign they came from. So let's say if you want to see whether they came from this Diwali campaign, all I have to do here is add a secondary dimension, call it, so you can see it again. You can always scroll back and see it in the video, but what I would do here is just say add secondary dimension called campaign, and you can see it here. It shows campaign Diwali. So this way you will be able to track literally anything, any link on the web. So maybe you are running, let's say, a QR code campaign. So if you were to run a QR code campaign, I would put the and run it on WhatsApp, or maybe it is offline, right? So I would say in this case I would put it as offline, and the medium I would put it as QR code, and campaign name will remain the same. Campaign term or video will depend on whatever content is it, and is it, if it is different, so I'll basically modify that as well. But otherwise, in general, if I have a common campaign, if it's just single thing that I'm talking about, then I would just end up with 3 elements. So this is how I would track offline. And let's say this could be a hoarding, and you've put a QR code there on the hoarding. Let's say if someone is scanning it and going to the website, so then that's what they will see. Next is, if you, let's say for example, you are doing a WhatsApp campaign, right? And you will basically push it off to a group of let's say moms, and you kind of are running a campaign like that. So source is obviously the platform, so we'll run it as WhatsApp. All right. And medium, so the medium is now the question, how exactly are you basically pushing this particular activity, whether it's going to be a CPC or whether it's going to be a click. So in this case you can actually name it whatever you like, as long as your naming conventions library or your guide is there. You can decide what it means, so that it becomes easier for you or someone else to actually follow the same guide. That's important. You can actually have these names whatever you want, but the reason why I try to focus more on the conventions and naming conventions is that it becomes easier for the next person who is going to do it for you, to be able to track. At the end of it, when you get a report, you will be able to see all of them together, and in most cases you should understand what the data is actually telling you, right? So in this case, if it is a WhatsApp campaign, I would simply put it as social, because it's a social campaign. If it's an influencer based WhatsApp campaign, I would put it as influencer, and then it's a WhatsApp campaign, influencers, and then in this case I would put Diwali. If it was a mommy driven campaign, I would have put moms, because they are the medium. It's going to run it. You are going to get traffic from WhatsApp. And let's say if you are hiring multiple moms as influencers, and you want to track whether each mom, which mom actually ends up giving you more traffic, then you can actually put that person's name over here. So let's say in this case, I will put the keyword or the differentiation of ads, or currently term. In this case, I will say, let's say the person's name is Sonali. So I will have a separate link for Sonali like this, and I'll copy this URL and I'll share it with the person. I might even do a bit.ly over here. It doesn't really matter whether you want to do a bit.ly to shorten it, so that people don't really understand whether they have a long URL and probably it looks very ugly. You can see that over here. So generally what happens is people shorten it, so you can actually go to bit.ly and put your links there. That's one of the ways that you can actually make it short, but the tracking will still remain intact. So even if you basically shorten the link from a bit.ly, the tracking will remain intact. So that's what I wanted to share today. I hope you liked the video. In case you liked it, just drop in your comments. In case you didn't like it, just share your feedback in the comments as well. Okay. Hi Aniket, which one do you think is the best to track YouTube channel, website link directs, view filter setup, or create a new property in Google Analytics? Okay. So with this particular question, what I would do is, if I'm directing people to my website, then I would simply use UTM tracking, because UTM tracking allows me to identify. I can also put different YouTube videos, different UTM links for different videos, so that I can be able to differentiate which video did people actually come from. That's something that I can do as part of tracking on YouTube as well. So literally you can track anything from Google Analytics as long as you have an UTM. It all depends on how you want to track it, right? So let's say you have a video that is leading to a website, and you have people coming from YouTube. Now, let's say you have like 30 people who have come from YouTube this month. Let's say in the next month, you end up seeing people, about 200 people coming to your website from YouTube, which means YouTube is working for you, right? The big problem is you will be able to see source medium as YouTube, which is fine, and it will show as YouTube referral, but you will have no idea where actually which video is sending traffic to your website. And at that point of time, what you can do is you can create a UTM and set up these UTMs for every video, right? Each video. And when you basically see the data next, you will not see it as YouTube referral, but you will now start seeing it as YouTube something, because now you're tracking all links and you will be able to find out which is that video that is actually giving you more link clicks as well. Of course, you've got YouTube analytics to help you to a large extent, so don't forget to check that out as well, because that's also important. But otherwise, if you were to check it from Google Analytics, because that's where generally most of the data and analytics is handled from. If you were to look at which is the one, let's say somebody came from YouTube and then he has contacted us, if you want to track that, then you will not be able to do it on YouTube. You will have to do it in Google Analytics. So, and you will be able to bifurcate, saying, okay, which of the videos that has actually given you a new or a lead or a contact of that particular person. So as you can see over here, in this particular video, you see it's Facebook CPC Diwali one, and you can see over here that there is nobody has come to the contact page. So let's say if I come to the website over here and then I move over to the contact page, it will start registering a hit into that contact page section. So basically now it would have triggered a click onto the contact page session, because it's identified right now saying that, okay, this person came from this particular place, this particular link, and now he has basically gone to the contact us section as well. So that's basically how it is. That's how UTMs work. I think we've covered both. I think we've covered the links tracking for, let's say, directing to a other website, and you want to track that particular link, you will that you share on your network. You'll be able to find that out using the URL shorteners, but by having an account. You have to have an account if you want to basically get tracking, right? If you don't have track, it's not necessary that it should be Bitly. There are a lot of URL shorteners out there, so try any of those accounts. You will have a free account. Make sure you create one, and then you can use it. And on the other hand, if you were to use UTM parameters, then you can actually try this approach. All right, so thanks for being a part of this session. I hope you learned something new. Do share your feedback, and I look forward to seeing you next week in our next Tuesday talk.